All right, so this is our first support call for the group Inner Peace after abortion, and I'm actually contemplating changing the name. So we'll see where that goes.
Oh, what's your
Um,
idea?
I don't know. I'm leaning toward like strength after abortion, or like I just can't quite identify like what what is the main goal. And inner for me, like inner peace leads to strength. So
Hmm.
that was how that sort of originated. But I wonder if for some people they're like, I don't ever want to be at peace with that.
Hmm.
And that's okay. And so would like extracting strength speak to more people in a way?
Yeah.
Like it would speak to a few different categories of people. Like one is the people who feel really good about their decision, like mostly like you and I did, and we just really want to pull out and make it more meaningful.
Hmm.
So anyway, to anyone watching the replay, if you want to chime in about the group name, like names do matter. Like if it speaks to you in a way that feels really good, like give your suggestions. I'm totally open because it is still a very new group. But here is our first of our September support calls. So today I want to talk about identifying your feelings about your abortion experience. And we're going to record the first part of this call. Today it's just Morgan and I. And Morgan and I have actually worked together before. So she is open to keeping the recording going. In the future, I will just record the first section of the call where I teach. And then we can have the option to turn off the recording and jump into coaching for anyone who wants coaching. Now we've both stripped down to our tank tops, so we are ready to go. All right, so the first like super simple thing I want to cover is what are feelings, right? What is a feeling? So a feeling basically at its like simplest version is a sensation in your body, and feelings come from thoughts, right? So we think something and our body has a response. We feel in reaction to that. Now, many of us think that our feelings come from our situation, right? They come from the argument we had with our partner, or they come from the unplanned pregnancy, or they come from the mean nurse at the appointment. But really, we're having a thought about that mean nurse or our partner or the weather that creates the feeling. So a feeling is a sensation in the body. And I have recently, I don't know if you know this app, Morgan, and I'll see if I can just show you that, like, it's this little, see the little 4 quadrants on the bottom? So it's called Mood Meter. And I am the kind of person who I actually struggle with tapping into and identifying my feelings. And I also am really tempted to push away the feelings I don't like and to make them pretty and turn them into new feelings. So we'll keep talking in this group, but really being human is a balance of positive and negative emotion. And so this app has been really helpful for me to actually check in 3 times a day. What am I feeling? And one of the things I love about it is so our feelings have, if you see those 4 quadrants, our feelings have like, they have a pleasant or unpleasant category, right? So if you look at the quadrants again, like, so if you imagine the quadrants, like the yellow and green are pleasant feelings and the blue and red are unpleasant. That's just how they categorize it. And then there's also like high energy or low energy. So high energy is like the red, yellow category. So that's like happy, angry. And then the bottom would be like calm, depressed, right? So high energy, low energy, pleasant, unpleasant. So one of the things I love about this app is that it helps me find the words for my feelings, because sometimes I struggle to identify what's the word, right? Like my feeling was like dictionary, right? Like my internal and feeling dictionary has expanded as I become more and more in touch. But sometimes it's like, am I frustrated or am I agitated, right? There's like some nuances. So the feeling app, the way this one's set up, kind of gives you word suggestions once you get a sense of where you are. So it helps you identify, what is that feeling in my body? Like, what am I feeling in my body when I think about my abortion, when I think about my relationship with my partner since my abortion, when I think about my children after my abortion, or the children I want to have someday after my abortion? What is the real language around that feeling? So it's called Mood Meter. I think it's a great way to start tapping into your feelings. Now, why do feelings matter when we're talking about abortion? There's a few reasons. One is that when we understand our feelings, we can use that understanding to make room for the healing, right? It's hard to be your badass, like, woman warrior self if your brain and your body are full of feelings that you're refusing to look at, right? So when we identify our feelings, we can then choose, do I want to allow this feeling? Do I want to resist this feeling? Do I want to pretend I'm not having this feeling? But when we choose to identify them and let them move out, we make room for the healing, right? If we are ignoring the feeling, it's really hard to do the healing. So, all right, I hit the point where I get sick of my hair being down. So we're going to put that hair back up. So that's one of the biggest reasons we want to identify our feelings, is we want to start feeling them to make room and decide what to do with them. Do I want to keep the sadness, or do I want to find room and let it go, or make room for it, or let it come in and out, right? So it allows us to sort of, in my other coaching business, I work a lot in feng shui. And we talk about decluttering, we're making room, right? We're like if you think about your stuff, if there's a big pile of papers on your desk, like there was for me this morning, I literally just put it on the floor for this call because I didn't want to look at it while I was on the call. I wanted to make room to allow myself to say what needed to be said and feel that clarity. Now, the pile is at my feet, so I would have done much better to actually take the time to sort it before. But essentially, the idea is we make room to create space to do the healing, to have the clarity, to be able to teach and connect with the people who need it. So there's one more thing I want to talk about today in terms of feelings, which is so there's a saying, how we do one thing is how we do everything. And I want to propose, how you feel in one place is how you feel in other places. So what I mean by that is, if you're feeling some shame or guilt or grief that is unresolved about your abortion, when you hit a place, let's say you have a work event, right, where you're feeling shame about putting in a proposal that didn't go well, or you didn't get the project done that you were supposed to get done on time, right? That may pull up feelings of shame. Now we're talking about work now, right? But if you have unresolved feelings about shame from your abortion, they're going to affect your feelings about shame in your work, right? They're going to affect your feelings of shame in parenting, right? So when it comes up, your brain remembers shame from your abortion, and it's like ding, 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 and all the stuff starts piling in, making clutter, and then you don't have the room to heal. So if we resolve our feelings about anything in our lives, and in our case for this call, if we resolve our feelings about abortion, we make room to feel those feelings in other places in our lives and not be triggered, right? Like, you'll still have the shame about the work experience or the parenting experience or whatever it is, but you won't let it immobilize you, because it's then reminding you of the shame you haven't processed from your abortion. You haven't acknowledged, you haven't made room to heal. Does that make sense? I'm Morgan here alone, and she knows a lot of this work. So, but please reach out if you're watching the replay and you have questions. So that is one of the reasons I think it's most important to do this work around your feelings and your abortion, and to keep doing it. Because when you start making changes in your job, changes in your relationships, changes in your friendships, your community, this stuff stirs back up. And so we think, some of us think we can just put these experiences in a box and move on, right? Abortion is a kind of trauma, just like a childhood abuse or a particularly intense weather like an earthquake or whatever, so it is an experience that forms us in some way, and it may be a really positive way, or it may be a little more challenging negative way. And so we need to recognize that and be able to move forward. So to extract the strength from your abortion experience, you got to process those feelings. You got to figure them out. So when they come back up in other places in your life, you're like, shame, I got this. I know how to do this. I did this with my abortion, and I'm not going to let my boss make me feel like a dumbass, right? Like, I'm stronger than that. Like, I got that gift from doing that inner work of healing. All right, so the questions I want you to think about, and we will move further into them after when we start the coaching with Morgan, since she's the only one here today, is so I think that one of the steps that many of us overlook in our abortion healing, and Morgan, we actually didn't do a lot of coaching in this when we did our program. And it's sort of coming clear to me now, is what were you feeling when you discovered your unplanned pregnancy? We did a little bit of that, but I know that because when we realize that we have this pregnancy we don't want to keep, for most of us who come to this work with me, it's an unplanned pregnancy they didn't want. But for others, it may be a pregnancy that they're terminating for medical reasons, right? It's unplanned in the sense that it's not what you expected, and you have to make a decision. So that decision generally has to be made fairly quickly, right? There's this immediately, like, I have an unplanned pregnancy and now I have to make a decision. And so we don't give a lot of time to what were those feelings I had when I realized this unplanned thing happened in my life. We kind of jump to, we had to make a decision, and now we have to deal with the decision that we made, whatever way we need to deal with it. So there's an opportunity to bring yourself back to, what were you feeling when this unplanned thing happened in your life? And before you jumped into the action of what am I going to do next, there was a lot of processing that happened in that. So what were you feeling when this unplanned thing happened to you? It can be really healing to go back there. So we won't go in any further to that right now, but if that stuck out to you, it's probably a feeling that you skipped over, and it would be really helpful for you to go back and look at. So next is sort of, what were you feeling before, during, and after your abortion, right? And there's all kinds of afters. There's the immediate after, where you may have felt relief. Then there's the 2 weeks, the 4 weeks, the 3 months, the 3 years, right? I had my abortion 2.5 years ago, and I still have new feelings that come up, or new realizations, or new thoughts. So after doesn't mean just like after and then you're done thinking about it. It's like this, like I said, this is a life-forming event for many of us. Now, that just not to say there's not women who have abortions and move on and they're done and it's all well and good. But for many of us, it's a life-forming thing that keeps coming back up. So start to identify, what were you feeling before, during, and after? And I'm talking like, get a pen and write it down. I happen to have a red pen with me today. Get a pen and write it down. It is helpful if you're listening to this driving or something where you're not, you don't have an opportunity to write or time. And if you don't have time right now, I really recommend you put that on your calendar. Like, when am I going to answer those questions about how I was feeling? And write it down, pen to paper. So after you write down how you were feeling, think about, how do you feel about it now that's different or the same? And then this question is one that we skip over a lot. How do you feel about your feelings, right? I feel some shame, and then I feel angry that I have shame. right? So there's these like layers of emotions that can come up. So sometimes to find those, you can ask like, how am I feeling about that feeling, right? How am I feeling about the fact that I now have this judgment, this self-judgment, or this anger, or whatever the things are? So there's so many layers you can start to dig into. And that's the work we do when we work one-on-one. We sort of, and we'll get a taste of that in the group coaching this month. But like, what are the layers? Because when you find those really deep inner layers and clear them, then you get to move on, then you get to grow, then you get to fly, right? Those are your wings. When I went to put earrings on today, my daughter actually, it's the craziest thing, like right after I created the logo that I have right now for this business, with the wings, right? Like the purple drop and the wings, my daughter bought me these feather earrings. They're like about this size and they're feathers. And I was like, whoa, she doesn't even know that I just like created this logo. I almost wore them today, but I decided not to. Maybe I'll wear them next time. But that's when you find your wings. That's when you're able to use your wings, right? That's when you're able to find your freedom after abortion, is when you do that inner work, that deeper layers, finding the layers. So I think that's pretty much it in terms of what I want to just talk today. And then let's move into the group coaching. So for this call, it's just Morgan. So Morgan gets one-on-one coaching, and we'll keep the recording going. But for future calls, this is a point where if anyone wants on the call, we can turn it off and call it quits. But thank you, Morgan, for being that voice today. So the other thing to keep in mind is that when Morgan and I are working together on this call, we have done work together in the past. So the way I coach her might be a little different than the way I would coach someone who is brand new to this. Sometimes it's the same. Sometimes it's like, because the simplest things are what give us the greatest like aha moments, right? So some of the questions will be exactly the same I would ask if I had never met her before. But there may be pieces that are like, I know things about Morgan and her story that may, allow me to ask certain questions that come through. So, all right. Morgan, did I say anything new today that you hadn't really thought of in that way?
Definitely feeling about the feeling.
Yeah, right.
That's been coming up a lot for me, not in abortion, but in other coaching.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of judgment on, I think feeling shame is a big one for me.
Yeah. And so when you think about shame in general, what thoughts come up for you? Like what do you think about shame in general?
The emotion of shame?
Yeah.
That I guess I shouldn't be feeling it.
So it's a feeling we shouldn't feel.
Yeah, I make it mean that like something's wrong.
Yeah.
Because like when you listen to Brene Brown, she's like, you want to feel guilt instead of shame.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh no, I'm feeling shame.
Yeah, we get these voices in our head, and I love that you bring up Brene Brown because she's amazing. She's amazing. So there's these times where we hear these things in our head, and then the way they clicked when we were listening kind of like sunk in this new belief. And then we carry that belief and we're like, but it's Brene Brown. If she says I should feel guilt instead of shame, then I should, right? But like, just because it's right. Brene Brown, and just because you heard it that way the first time you heard it, doesn't mean it's this law of the universe, right? So like I should feel what you said, guilt instead of shame.
Yeah. So if I like had permission and acceptance about feeling shame, then it would definitely pass through faster.
Yeah. What do you think about people who feel shame?
Other people who feel shame?
Yeah. About anything, not necessarily. It can be specifically about abortion, but any. People who feel shame, fill in the blank.
Ooh. So my thought is like, people who feel shame, I guess, deserve love. They just need love.
Mm-hmm. What else?
Yeah.
I know for me, like, a thought that I might have is like people who feel shame have work to do.
Yeah.
like whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it's an immediate, like it's a thought that comes to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I finish that sentence, I'm like, have work to do.
Yeah, that feels true for me too. Because yeah, shame is one of those, like, the emotions that indicate that like something's going on for sure.
Yeah, right. Like, or there may be people on the call. I don't know if it's you or, and I don't, it's not where I'm at, but like, there may be people on the call who, like, people who have shame may finish that sentence, did something wrong. Right. And that may even apply for us, because I remember when I was feeling, I don't feel it now because I've done the work, but when I was feeling the shame, I was like, it was this just equation in my head. Like, if I'm feeling shame, I must have done something wrong. Right?
Yeah.
Because like the two just went together. Like, I fucked up, right? Yes. I wouldn't feel shame if I hadn't done this wrong thing, right? So it pulls up this like right and wrong discussion.
Yeah, mine's like, I wouldn't feel shame if I didn't know better.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's this, so whatever you're feeling, like people who are watching and listening in the future, like whatever, just fill in that sentence. And then you don't even have, sometimes you don't even have to go further than that. You can just be like, whoa, I didn't know I was thinking that. And that awareness alone sometimes is enough for you to just like take a deep breath and make some room, right? Like, for the first step in making room to heal is just like, whew, awareness. I didn't know I believed that, and now I know. So I can choose to keep it. I can choose to let it go. I can choose to explore it more. Yeah, anything else like come to you right away? People who feel shame.
No.
So let me ask you, because you said deserve love.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Do you deserve love?
Yes. Intellectually.
Right? Intellectually. So there's work to be done there, right? It's like people who feel shame deserve love. So, but I'm not sure I'm one of those people.
Right.
Right? Even though Morgan's saying other people who feel shame deserve love, but I'm not sure that rule applies to me. Right? So it's just, again, it's like there's this awareness, right? Like, so answer the question really, like, why do you believe that other people deserve love, but maybe it's not quite the same for you?
I think it's just like a past thing, right? Of like practicing the belief for so long that I didn't deserve love. And so breaking the thought pattern. Yeah. Cause it, like, in my head, it's like, that makes no sense. Of course I deserve love.
Right. And that's why you said intellectually, right?
Yeah.
So there's this voice that's like, I know I do deserve love. Like, I know that every human being on the planet deserves love. I know that particularly, like, and Morgan's done a lot of work on self-love, and it's like one of the greatest things that came from her abortion experience. But just because you do the work one time, just because you have the aha moment, just because you're like, whoa, that just happened, doesn't mean it then sticks forever. Like, it keeps coming back up and you're like, oh, thought I resolved that, but I have to keep practicing. I have to keep, right? So it's like what she said about, like, I had believed it for so long. She had believed that this piece for so long, and now she has to believe something new for so long. And in 10 years, probably in just in a few years, or maybe even a few months, but I'm going to say a few years, you will look back and be like, remember when I didn't believe? Like, I believed intellectually that I deserved love, but I didn't feel it. Like, it wasn't like in me, right? It was here, but it wasn't down here.
Right.
And so it's just about rewiring the brain, right? It's like, wait a second. I deserve love just as much as the other women who've had abortions and made challenging decisions and had all the feelings do. So it's like just that process of rewiring. So Morgan, you are a coach and you know the work, but how do you remind yourself? How do you rewire your brain and remind yourself that you need love, that you just
hard.
But what works?
It's so hard. What works for me?
Yeah, what works or what doesn't work?
Okay. So I use movement a lot, actually, as a form of love. So like whenever I'm in the gym or yoga, it's like I practice like self-accepting thoughts.
Yeah.
It's kind of my time, because that's when I notice the most judgment will come up. Like, especially in the gym, it's like all the comparison and the judgment and judging your body and feeling like you're not doing things right. And so in the gym, I make it like a special note to like watch my thoughts there.
Yeah. So here's a great example of how, if you're not doing the self-care that your body needs, right? Like, not everyone needs the gym. That's not self-care for everybody, but it is self-care for Morgan. And if she's not in the gym on a regular basis, she's missing that opportunity to practice self-accepting thoughts. And so then that starts to spiral the rest of her belief in self-love. Like, yeah. Right? So we can all find that thing for us. Like, where's the place? For me, it's writing. Like, if I don't journal, like, and I'm not a big journaler in the sense that I have like books and books, like you wouldn't look at it and think it reads like a novel. I'm like a bullet journaler. I just like, here's a thought, here's the thought, here's a thought, here's a question, here's a thought, here's a question, here's another question, and a lot of thoughts. So, but for me, writing, like, I have to, like the questions I asked earlier, you know, like, what was I feeling before I made the decision to have an abortion? Like, I can answer that question in my head, but I have to actually answer that question pen to paper for me to really find what's happening in here. Like, if I think about it, it comes from here. And if I go pen to paper, it comes from here. So for someone like Morgan or other people who have different ways, it may be art, it may be nature, it may be, like, for her, it's movement. She might need to process that question through a workout, right? Like, wait a second, let me ask the question. Or for some people, it's meditation, right? Let me ask the question before my workout. What was I feeling before my abortion? And she may become this, like, lifting 10 pounds more than she did the day before because she's recognizing that she felt anger, right? And so that's like or maybe she's recognizing that she felt like a lot of weight, like really heavy, and that's making it harder for her to do her workout. So I guess the point I'm making, and I'm using you as much for teaching as coaching, Morgan, is it's individual, and you have to find your ways of hearing what's going on, of checking in, of accepting it, and then of choosing to change the pattern. So the original question I asked you was, how do you, I'm like, what was the original question I asked you? It was, how do you practice that new belief of self? Mm-hmm. And so one of your answers was, or the answer you gave was, movement as a form of love, right?
Yeah. So to like think a thought every day, basically, mm-hmm. and like I do some sort of movement every day, whether that's a gym or a walk.
Yeah. What have you tried that doesn't work?
That's like my signal, kind of like if you were to get in the car. What have I tried that doesn't work?
Yeah.
Positive affirmations.
Yeah. So let's talk about those for a minute, because I think that's a place that a lot of people try, right? They're like, well, if I just keep telling myself that I'm worthy of love, eventually I'll believe it.
Yeah.
And I think that's very much a message out in like personal meme quote Pinterest land, right? Yeah. Is like, if I keep reading it, if I print it out and put it on my wall, if I whatever, I will eventually believe it. But Morgan and I both know that actually can cause more harm than it does good, because your brain keeps arguing with it, right? So if you try a positive affirmation, like what? Like, what's one you've tried?
I'm lovable.
I'm lovable, right? So now I know she's lovable. everyone watching, look at her, look how lovable she is. Like, we're like, yeah, Morgan, totally lovable. But if she keeps repeating that, like, her brain is then fighting with it. Like, no, you're not. And for some of you, it's like you were lovable before the abortion and now you're not, right? Or you were lovable before the abuse and now you're not, right? Like, so whatever the thing is. So if your brain is arguing with the positive affirmation, you're just headed down a spiral of nowhere land, and you're reprogramming your brain with all the brain arguments, not the actual initial statement, which is, I am lovable. So in the past, when you've told yourself, I'm lovable, what have you felt? Like, what happens in your brain?
Yeah, it just feels disgusting. It's like, no, I'm not.
Oh, right. So you think, no, I'm not.
And then it's like more shame because it's like, why can't I just believe this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully everyone's kind of getting an idea of how the emotions all sort of stack and layer, right? Like thinking I'm lovable or reading something that says I'm lovable or making yourself say it, and then thinking, no, I'm not, and then feeling disgusting, and then judging yourself for it not working, or for like you still haven't figured it out, or it's not actually true, all the things, right? Then those actions are causing her more problems than they were in the first place. And in came the shame, and then probably a little sprinkle of guilt and a lot of doubt, and right, so it's this one thing pulled up all the icky feelings instead of what the meme wanted you to do, which is pull up all the amazing feelings. Now, there's nothing wrong with memes. It's just like recognizing that the positive affirmations have many layers, just like the feelings. Mm-hmm. Some of them are good and some of them are not. So what, like, I feel like this is an opportunity to talk about ladder thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Morgan knows what I mean by ladder thoughts, but instead of Morgan feeling like telling herself, I'm lovable, what are some other things you can tell yourself that you would actually believe and not argue with?
So I start with like, I'm deserving of love, just like all humans are deserving of love.
Do you believe that?
So making it equal. Yes. I start asking myself questions like I'm open to noticing ways that I'm lovable.
I love that. I'm open to noticing ways that I'm lovable, because that's the law of attraction there. Right there, right? Like, my daughter started her first day in 10th grade today, and I was like, honey, don't look for the things you hate, because she really don't want to go to school. Just like, I just spent a week in the woods and I just want to go back and live in the woods. Right? And I'm like, don't go in looking for the things that you're going to hate. Like, just like try to be open. Now, I don't coach my daughter because that would not go well. But the way you phrase that, Morgan, I'm open to seeing, right? So I'm open to seeing tells our brain to look for the ways that we are lovable, versus looking for the ways that we're not. So
right.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, that's the one I'm still on.
Yeah, I'm open to seeing ways. And so then tell me, how do you acknowledge when you see the ways? Do you write them down? Do you
No, I did in the past. Appreciation in the past. That was a tool I used. Mm-hmm. Kind of like the rewiring, like you would do with gratitude.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, I would do like list 3 things that I appreciate about myself today. So like, I took a shower today, you know, like those sorts of things, kind of like you would do for a partner. So I used to write things down.
I mean, there's so many ways you can sort of, so if your thought is I'm open to seeing new ways that I'm lovable, right? Mm-hmm. Your goal is to wire that into your brain until you totally believe it and move on to the next thought. So you can do that in like a physical way. Like, every time I think I notice a place that I'm lovable, right? Mm-hmm. I can like, right? Like act like, for you it's movement, right? So or you could just do this, right? Or you can Like wiggle your fingers. Like these are silly examples, but they're not. Like, because that brain body connection will help you like wire in, I am lovable.
Yeah,
So
I like that.
if you know your thing is movement, like, and you notice a place that you are lovable, you have proof that you are lovable, connect it to your body somehow, right? For someone else, it might be like, I noticed a place that I'm lovable, so I'm going to look out the window at nature, right? Like I'm going to connect to a tree. I'm going to connect to a flower. I'm going to imagine my feet with roots, right? So whatever the thing is for you, take those little opportunities when you actually realize you're lovable. And you're like, oh, look at that. I actually am lovable. Yeah. Right? Like whatever your thing is, that's another tool to just start rewiring your brain to believe, right? Believe it in your body, like believe it in the world. Like just like that tree is lovable, you are lovable, right? So rewire you to speed up the rewiring your brain process. You can make attachments like that. It's almost like I mean, you could have an app with a check. You're like, damn, check. And then the checks start building. You're like, I really am figuring out that I'm lovable. But it's almost like that meter app to me. Every time I do it, it's proof that I actually can tap in with my feelings. I actually can identify my feelings. Because I used to tell myself a lot, I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know what I'm feeling. Well, that just kept reminding me and teaching me that I don't actually know. And so the app, if I do it 3 times a day, is like, wait, you actually do know what you're feeling. And so now I can't tell myself I don't know what I'm doing, because every time I go to check in with my feelings, I like, there's an action.
Yeah.
Like,
I like that.
There's like a graph that says what I'm feeling, right? So it like tracks. So then I can really like, instead of just going like, oh, I noticed what I was feeling, like I'm really like sealing it in with the ding, it's like bright yellow today, or it's flaming red. All right, so where are we at? Like, did you come to the call with something you were hoping I could help with, and then you off on all these tangents? Is there something you don't want to leave the call without talking about?
I mean, if we're talking about emotions, a big one that's been coming up for me lately is sadness, for sure.
Okay.
Especially being with a different partner.
Being with a different partner, and then it's stirring up these feelings of sadness.
Yeah.
More than you were when you were single. Is that what you're saying?
I wasn't single for very long between my abortion and this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sadness is coming up.
Yeah.
Where is it coming from?
The desire to have a child.
Mm-hmm. So what are you thinking about having a child? Like wanting a child? Like, is it literally just like, I want to have a baby and then I feel sad? Or is there other layers of thoughts in there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a few things, but it's mostly like, I want to be a mom and I can't yet.
Okay. So for some people, I want to be a mom would bring a lot of happiness, right? Like those words aren't. So what are you thinking? What's the rest of that sentence for you that's making it a sad thought and not a happy thought? Like, and I already said no once, or I might never be able to, I might not get pregnant when I want to, or now's not the time. Like, what's the end of that sentence that's actually causing the sadness?
Yeah. So I think it's layers, like definitely noticing that it's not the right time. It's like I could be a mom. And then like if I kept my pregnancy, I would still be pregnant. So I think that's part of it. And then, yeah, I don't know. It just feels like it's something I want and I'm kind of in a hurry for, but I don't want to be in a hurry for it. Like I would rather just enjoy like the next like year or two with my partner and like getting engaged and like enjoying all the phases rather than rushing for that.
Yeah. So thinking I want to be a mom and it's not the right time. is creating sadness for you.
Yes.
And then what are you doing? Like what's happening? Do you then like climb in bed with a container of ice cream? Well, one thing you said you do is you think about the pregnancy.
Yeah.
I think I would be pregnant.
Yeah, so this is normally triggered like around sex. So like afterwards or before.
I
Go ahead.
Sex was like one of the biggest, this is like kind of a side note, but you brought it up and I think it's really important for anyone who's watching this replay. I did not anticipate all the feelings around sex to be so powerful. Like, I was like, I remember the first time I had sex being like, how did no one tell me this was going to stir up like every feeling I could possibly imagine and ones that I never knew existed. So I just want to point out, like, this is something for a lot of people, right? Sex stirs up a lot of feelings.
Yeah.
And in all kinds of ways. Like for Morgan, that's like attached to like, this is the way I'm someday gonna have a baby, or I could get pregnant like this. And then for other people, like for me, it was like almost debilitating fear that I would get pregnant again. I was like so terrified that I would get pregnant again and have to go through the abortion again, or be the one who had two, for in my case, be the one who had two abortions. For some people, it might be 5 or whatever. But sex is such a raw, primal human thing that just like, it's a great opportunity to see what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it brings up a lot for sure.
Thank you for bringing that up. But it came from like, what do you do when you feel sad? Like if you're, I was like, do I want to ask this question on a recording? Maybe not. So I'll just stick to what do you do? And you can answer in your own way. What do you do when you feel sad?
What do I do? Yeah, so I definitely disconnect from him.
Yeah.
I get too in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So then sometimes if it's like right before sex that it kind of comes up, then we won't have it.
Mm-hmm. So you like change.
It'll stop. Actions. Yeah. We won't have sex. Or if it's afterwards, I'll cry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because like, if I told you there's going to be this time in your life where you feel really disconnected and you're going to be way up in your head and you're going to change your actions based on how you feel being sad and you're going to cry, is that the best time, the right time to become a mom? Would you say yes or no?
No.
No, right? So the reason I bring this up is like your initial thought is, I want to be a mom and it's not the right time.
Mm-hmm.
When that creates this sadness and it causes you to like disconnect and get in your head and change your actions and cry, like all those things are fine. There's nothing wrong with all those things. Like we're not supposed to cry or not supposed to not have sex when our thing, you know, like none of those things are wrong. But for you, like they're just like validating that it's not the right time.
Right.
Right? You're like, oh yeah, it's definitely not the right time. Like, so it's just really interesting how this initial thought that leads to sadness is then just proving that it isn't the right time right now. Because what does the right time, I gotta find another piece I didn't bring enough paper. What is the right time? How do you want to feel when it's the right time?
How do I want to feel?
Yeah.
Like connected.
So when you'll connect, let me try that again. When you feel connected, how will you act?
I would act. I'd be open with my partner. We'd have good communication. I'd be honest with myself. Feeling my emotion.
So if you felt connected and you were open with yourself and your communication was really clear and just like not simple, but like not chaotic and crazy, right? Your communication was good. You were honest with yourself. You were feeling the emotions. You were allowing them. What would the result of that be in terms of being ready to have a mom? To be a mom? Are you ready to have a mom, Morgan?
I need a mom too.
All right. So if you were open and you were communicating well and you were honest with yourself and you were feeling your emotions, how would that set you up to be a great mom? What would the result of all that be?
Yeah, I guess I would be seeing that I'm the type of mom that I want to be.
Yeah. So you're like, it's like laying the foundation for the parent you want to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes I write these things. I don't know why, but like I can't keep talking to you unless I write it, and I'm just gonna go recycle it afterwards. So it's like I don't even need to write it. So when you feel connected and you're open and you're communicating well and you're honest with yourself and feeling the emotions, the result of that is laying a foundation for the parent you want to be, versus when you felt sad and you were disconnected in your head, changing your actions, crying, you were laying a foundation for it not to be the right time.
Yes.
So what is a thought that you could think and believe now that would help you feel connected and continue to lay this foundation to be the parent you want to be, whether it's in 6 months or 6 years or a year or whatever, right? Like, how can you keep laying that foundation from a place of connection? What will make you feel connected?
Yeah, what's interesting is like what comes up is like I'm definitely afraid to feel ready. Does that make sense? Like I know I'm ready, but I know my life isn't ready.
So you're ready, but your life's not ready.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So to get your life ready, you need to feel connected.
Right. Yeah.
So what can you think to feel connected and get your life ready? Because you just said that when you feel connected, you're going to be open, you're going to communicate with him, you're going to be honest with yourself, you're going to feel your emotions and like be in touch with them. So all those things are what's going to get you ready to be a mom. So what can you think in order to feel connected? I mean, sometimes it's as simple as I'm setting, or like the super simple would be I'm laying the foundation to be the parent I want to be, right? That's like the simplest version. But it's also like, it could be something like the choices I make now set me up to be the parent I want to be. Does that connect you to that future self who is a mom? That's what we really want. We want to like something that will connect you to that mom in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.
So it's like, did you write it down? Choices I make now set me up to be the mom I want to be. Because it connects you to that vision that you have for your life someday.
Yeah.
So you can answer this on this call, or you can just think about it later. But imagine you're in that situation where you are about to have sex, or you're thinking like whatever that pre-play is, where in the past you've gotten sad, and then it created this disconnection and this change in plans and this, you get in your head and cry, right?
Mm-hmm.
So go back to that place. If you thought the choices I make now set me up to be the mom I want to be, does that allow you to take a deep breath, like release the sadness and step into that future version of yourself in any way?
Maybe slightly.
So I think slightly is good, but what I don't know that we're going to use the time on this call right now, but what we could keep doing is going, let's find the thought that will help you in that moment.
Yeah.
Because that's really when you're going to start changing things, right? Is like, and my guess is that this thought is like, it's awesome and it helps a little, but it's like kind of too long and complicated. So when you're about to have sex and you're like, fuck, I still feel sad and now I don't want to, and forget it. Like, I'm just going to go to bed. It's too much to think the choices I make now set me up to be the woman I want to be. But is there another thought you could think that would connect you? Connect you to your relationship, connect you to your future life, connect you to the self who wants to become a mom. So
Yeah.
there's probably a simpler thought that would serve you in that moment. But when you start to like dissect your life in these ways and then practice that, the next time you feel like, so Morgan's done my work with the Y word, and your word is connected, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you haven't done that work, feel free to reach out to me about the Y word. But if in that moment of sadness, you said to yourself, what would connection do?
Mm-hmm.
Would that shift your energy? And sometimes the answer might be connection would stay sad or connection would let it go.
Yeah, I think it would shift it, but it would be more like, because in the place right now, it's like, I don't think I want the sadness to necessarily go away. Like I do, but it's there. So I need to acknowledge it. And so it would be connection to my partner of like, hey, we're not going to have sex right now. I'm just going to lay here and we're going to cry together.
Yeah.
Rather than like pulling away from him.
Yes, because before you were disconnected, you were in your head, you're like, so it was like that small step is just what would connection do? Connection would stay sad and just say, can you hold me? Right?
Yeah.
Like, I recognize that you're probably having a lot of feelings right now and I'm having a lot of feelings right now, and like, let's just be here.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving me space to just be here. So then you're still feeling the connection, but it's not like you're having sex when you don't want to have sex because of this thought you were supposed to have. Right? Like,
right. And then the sex would probably happen after I cry and it'd be great.
Right? Exactly. And you just let that unfold as it's meant to. But, you know, I mean, the Y word thing really is kind of brilliant. So keep going back to it, because sometimes the simplest thing you need to think is, what would connection do? And that is your word. So for people watching, the Y word is this one word that like fuels you. It's special to you. I just did a call with someone and her word was valuable. My word is growth. I've have clients whose word is spirit, or what are some of the other words? Connections in there frequently. But when Morgan can tap into connection, it changes her trajectory of the sadness, right? So the sadness might still be there, but she allows it and is with it and connects to her partner in it versus disconnecting from her partner. And I'm guessing like, this piece you said about being honest with yourself, right? So in that moment, if you say, what would connection do? It's an opportunity to be honest with yourself.
Right.
Woo! Well, I hope we didn't go way over people's heads, because we talked about a lot of stuff. And that's what coaching is. You just kind of like take it at the pace that someone needs, and hopefully you walk away with a tool you can implement. Like hopefully Morgan took this time, right? This almost an hour here to think about things in new ways, and she can walk back and like maybe the thing she remembers is like when she sees ways she's lovable, she's gonna like, heck yeah. I don't know, like the hope with coaching is that you walk away with one or two little things that you can start implementing and shift your perspective. And when you keep doing that and it keeps building, then you really start to change your life. Are you good?
I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you. That was our first September call. So 3 more this month, and then based on how they go, we'll just see. Like, I want to give people what they need and what they want. So if this isn't it, we'll reevaluate. And Morgan's like, it's what I want. Can we? I'll see you next week. If there was more than one person on the call, we would have just sort of bounced around. And as you can tell from watching Morgan be coached, you can learn a lot by just hearing someone else's situation. All right. Bye.
Bye.